Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fate's Wide Wheel. I'm your host, Sam Fain, and I am stoked because it's here, it's arrived. I am so thrilled to have in my hands John Woo's The Killer on 4K Ultra HD from Shout Factory, part of their Hong Kong Cinema Classics. This is volume number 18. So it's Hard Boiled is 17, Killer is 18, and then you've got Better Tomorrow Trilogy is 19, 20, and 21, which is a pretty fantastic run. If you haven't, go back and check out my reviews and unboxings of both Hard Boiled and the Better Tomorrow trilogy. I released my reviews of the Better Tomorrow films individually, separate from the unboxing. This one is going to be more like the Hard Boiled unboxing review. We'll do the unboxing and the review all in one video. But I'm super excited about this. I'm so thrilled that it's here, and I think the artwork by Chow Ju is fantastic. The package designer is Callie Chung. And they've done a fantastic job also. It just looks so distinctive in that red with the white typeface there. The artwork is incredible. I can't wait to crack this open and take a look at the booklet. Before we do that, though, let's head over here real quick. And something else also arrived, and that's the Shaw Brothers Classics Volume 8. Came out on the same day. Of course, it's going to take me a while to get to this. I'm not going to do an unboxing. There's nothing necessarily too fancy about this, except for the amazing films that are included within 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 12 films in this one. Very, very excited to add this to the collection. I'm kind of hoping they stop here. Because at this point it's a compulsion to try to get them all, and I'm still making my way through the other 7 box sets, much less having to do a new one. But that said, let's go ahead and take a look at The Killer again. We'll get a close up there of that beautiful artwork by Chow Ju-Lee. It looks fantastic. And again, very distinctive packaging design here by Callie Chung. And again, it just, yeah, it looks great. It stands out. I love what they've done with the Hong Kong Cinema Classics, the gold foiling. It really, pops, and it just looks great. This will look awesome on the shelf, obviously. Let's go ahead though and crack this open. I'm really, really excited about this film. I remember, when I saw Hard Boiled for the first 5, 6 times. The Killer was one that kind of eluded me, and I didn't actually end up seeing it until I think I purchased the Criterion Collection DVD, which I still have. I'll show that to you later. But I just remember being blown away by it and really loving it and appreciating it almost even more than I did Hard Boiled. Now, unfortunately, it does sound like our discs are rolling around a bit in here. Oh, look at that. That is absolutely gorgeous artwork. Unbelievable. Really, really enjoying that. We get Chow Yun-Fat and Danny Lee right there on the cover. Yeah, so one of the discs unfortunately did come a little bit loose, but it looks free of damage, so we'll give them a pass. And then we have, of course, our discs. You have the 4K Ultra HD of the film. You have the Blu-ray of the film, and then a Blu-ray that contains all of the special features. I really like the way that they've done this actually, because the 4K Ultra HD has all 3 audio commentaries. The second disc, the Blu-ray, also has all 3 audio commentaries. And then one Blu-ray is dedicated purely to the rest of the special features, which is pretty cool. Again, just looks amazing. Look at that artwork. Do we have a reversible cover? We do not, which is nothing out of the ordinary for these Shout Factory Hong Kong Cinema Classics that we've seen so far. But that is just gorgeous artwork. Gorgeous artwork there. And then let's take a quick look here at our booklet, which we've got that artwork from the rigid slipcase on there. Passion of the Killer, male bonding and nostalgia in the Killer, assassinating expectations, motion picture assassins in America, and special features, production credits. We're going to get some amazing, amazing screen grabs, I'm assuming here. Wow, these look fantastic. If this is any indication of how good the film is going to look, we are absolutely in for a treat. These just look so good. What a wonderful booklet they've put together. Iconic images here. Yeah, out of this world. Absolutely love it. Art direction by Mindy Kang. You did an awesome job, Mindy Kang. Packaging supervision by Jeff Pallow. Great work. Package designers Callie Chung. Slipcase cover illustrator Chow Ju-Lee. Amazing. Just absolutely wonderful. Absolutely incredible. So let's talk a little bit about the special features here. Special features, actually, we get audio commentary with director John Woo and film journalist Drew Taylor. That's brand new. We also get a new audio commentary with critic and author David West. Of course, David West has done a myriad of audio commentaries on these films, including A Better Tomorrow 3. We get an audio commentary with John Woo and producer Terrence Chang. This is awesome because this is actually a port over from the Criterion Collection DVD. So those DVDs have been impossible to get for quite a while now. If you didn't have them, if you're upgrading, whatever, you don't have to necessarily worry about not having it because you've got that awesome audio commentary included. Those audio commentaries, of course, will also be on the Blu-ray. The Disc 3 special features, we get a feature-length documentary on the cinema of Hong Kong's iconic director, John Woo, called The Hero of Heroic Bloodshed, a John Woo documentary, featuring new interviews with John Woo, stuntman Bruce Law, producer Michael Colleary, writer Mike Werb, producer Laurie Tilken de Felice, director Raoul Rene, and many more. We also get a Bullet Ballet interview with director John Woo, My Kind of Hero interview with producer Terrence Chang, Editing the Killer interview with editor David Woo, and Hong Kong Confidential Inside the Killer with author Grady Hendrix. All of those are new. We also get deleted and extended scenes, trailers, and an image gallery. Super stoked to get into those. Cannot wait. This is one that I was just so excited about, thrilled about. I mean, Hard Boiled arrived and it really reinvigorated, I think, my love for Hong Kong cinema, for John Woo specifically, then getting through the Better Tomorrow trilogy and just being able to share this with you guys. I'm having so much fun doing this. I really hope you're enjoying the videos as well. Take a minute to hit like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and we've got more along the way. Of course, there's a retro unboxing of Star Trek The Motion Picture coming shortly after this. I have my first quick kicks already in the bag, so you'll see that soon as well. Those quick kicks videos are going to be sub 10 minutes, just real quick burst reviews rather, most likely of those Shaw Brothers classics that I was showing off earlier. So I'm really excited to share that. But I'm going to go away. I'm going to watch this, and then we'll come back and we will talk about The Killer in 4K Ultra HD with this new scan from the original camera negative by Shout Factory. Cannot wait to tear into this, especially after how brilliant Hard Boiled looked, how amazing the Better Tomorrow trilogy looked. This is such a treat to get these films in 4K Ultra HD. So I'll be back in just a second. All right, I am back to talk about The Killer in 4K Ultra HD from Shout Factory as a part of their Hong Kong Cinema Classics line. I'm going to talk about the technical merits of the film first, special features, and then we'll get into a little bit of a brief review of the film itself. First of all, one of the things that did strike me about this 4K transfer is that it is not quite as consistent as, say, Hard Boiled, or even maybe A Better Tomorrow 3. A Better Tomorrow, I think it's kind of on par with. Now, that does make sense. The Killer was shot in 1989 prior to Hard Boiled. It was shot actually a little bit before Better Tomorrow 3 even. I get the idea that Tsui Hark might have even utilized methods that John Woo did not, might have had a little bit more budget, or not even if he didn't have more budget per se, just maybe had a little bit more actual filmmaking acumen when it came to cinematography and film and that sort of stuff. There are also some film tricks that they might have used on The Killer, which resulted in some source material issues, which made it a little bit difficult perhaps to find that consistency in the 4K transfer. Whatever the case is, there are definitely, in the early part of the film, there are some moments that don't necessarily have quite the same clarity and depth that the film gets to have, which is strange that it seems that early on it was a little shaky for me, and then as the film went on, it seemed to be a lot more consistent. So again, I don't know if that's something with the source material, if it was just my eyes, or what the case might be, but the transfer did seem to lack a little bit of consistency compared to maybe some of the other films that we've recently talked about here on the channel. So I did want to say that up front. That said, this is inarguably the best the film has ever looked. The VHS that I saw years and years ago, the Criterion Collection DVD that I own, it blows them out of the water 1,000,000%. The clips that are used from the film in the documentaries and in the special features on the Blu-ray disc pale in comparison to the 4K transfer. There are moments during the 4K transfer where it arguably looks better or just as good anyway as all of the other films that we've so far discussed as a part of the 4K Ultra HD Hong Kong Cinema Classics line. So I don't want you to take those earlier comments as any sort of negative review. It's not. It is just a comment that I felt like I noticed that it wasn't maybe quite as consistent as some of those other movies that we've watched recently. That said, again, it looks incredible. The final shootout in the church where, Chow Yun-Fat is dressed in white, the rain, the doves, the gunfight. I mean, everything is just incredible. It looks absolutely astounding. The dragon boat race footage looks absolutely amazing. The shootout after the boat race looks incredible. A couple of the car chases and shootouts, again, kind of in the latter half of the film, just magnificent. It looks like something that was shot on a budget far beyond the $2 million that this movie was shot for. So it's really something else. Again, the likelihood that they use like tungsten to help filter the camera to get a blue effect in some shots might have actually had an effect on the source material and the transfer that they were able to achieve with this. I don't know. I'm not enough of an expert in that respect. But again, I will say that I didn't necessarily find the transfer quite as consistent, but I would argue that it's the best that it's ever looked and likely the best it ever will look. I don't know what you could do to necessarily change that. And again, that it could just be me. It could just be my own personal preference here. So I certainly want to know what you think. Drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn that notification bell on. Follow along as we review more Hong Kong cinema classics, as well as other films. I have a quick kick coming up about a film that may have influenced this film, actually, a Chang Che film starring Jimmy Wang Yu from the 60s called The Assassin. It's actually the first movie in the Shaw Brother Classics set that Shout Factory also has released 8 volumes of now. And there's a lot more yet to come. Back to The Killer, however, on 4K Ultra HD. The audio commentaries. So we get 3 audio commentaries. The new audio commentary with John Woo, which is also kind of moderated by journalist Drew Taylor, is a good commentary. There's not much dead air at all. There's some really wonderful anecdotes. There's some nice conversational bits. However, I feel like a lot of what is covered in this audio commentary is covered better elsewhere. So this one is not must listen in my opinion. But it's always great to hear from John Woo, and Drew Taylor does a wonderful job moderating the conversation. The second audio commentary with David West, I thought was magnificent. His audio commentary for A Better Tomorrow 3 felt a little slow and ponderous at times. There is a slower pace to the audio commentary for The Killer, even compared to somebody like James Mudge or Frank Zheng, perhaps. However, that said, this commentary I loved. I thought that the context that he provided, so much of the information, not only about the filmmaking, but about the sort of socio-political and cultural climate in Hong Kong at the time the film was made, which again is something that he did very well in A Better Tomorrow 3 as well, undoubtedly. But there was just something about this commentary that, I don't know, it felt a cut above that commentary on A Better Tomorrow 3, and so I appreciated it even more. I do think it's must listen. I thought it was fantastic. The third audio commentary, which is an archival audio commentary from the Criterion Collection DVD and Laserdisc, featuring John Woo and Terrence Chung, is great when they're talking. There's a lot of dead air in this one. That said, Terrence is always a wonderful fount of information. His interview on the Blu-ray bonus features is a must watch as far as I'm concerned, as is John Woo's. In fact, we'll go ahead and just move over to those Blu-ray special features. So there is a documentary about John Woo on here. It is The Hero of Heroic Bloodshed, a John Woo documentary. A lot of effort, I'm sure, went into this. A lot of thought and time went into the production of this. However, it feels less like a documentary and more like a collection of video essays that just kind of got pasted together. There is a through line somewhat, but because we hear from so many different talking heads, I don't know that the through line always holds together as well as it could. So as a documentary, it doesn't quite work for me. There's valuable information in it. I do think it's worth watching. I don't think that the hour and 14 minutes that it occupies are necessarily a riveting watch, though. I think if you're a fan of John Woo, if you're a fan of these films, you should definitely watch this. There's some interesting information, there's some good commentary involved. That said, the other special features on the Blu-ray, in my opinion, are far better than this documentary, which is a shame because when you're going to do a documentary on someone like John Woo, I think you have the opportunity to create something unique and something perhaps that holds together as a documentary film. And this does not. Again, it just feels like a collection of video essays for the most part. And again, there are some interesting bits and bobs here, but for the most part, it's I don't know. It feels a little superfluous. I'm glad that it was done. I'm glad that it occupies some space. I'm very glad that it covers the breadth of his career, but it also has to do that without the benefit of clips, without hearing from some of the major players. So again, it feels more like a video essay and a lot of talking heads than it does a true documentary for the most part. However, when we get on to the John Woo interview on here, which is titled A Bullet Ballet, that's a 45-minute interview with John Woo. When you put together all of the interviews with John Woo over the course of the Hard Boiled Blu-ray and the A Better Tomorrow Blu-ray, I mean, we've got probably close to 3 hours, maybe over 3 hours of interview footage with John Woo, contemporaneous interview footage, like stuff that was done recently, within the past year or so. So you're hearing from him now, and he has a very clear memory about a lot of things with the film. He talks at length about a number of things. And honestly, this John Woo documentary in 45 minutes accomplishes much the same thing that the audio commentary with Drew Taylor and John Woo on the disc accomplishes. So I feel like this is must watch. This is go to. This is something worth checking out, undoubtedly. And I think that this type of thing, by the time they've released all of these films, hopefully we're going to get the career retrospective, hearing from the man himself, that in essence the documentary I don't think quite fully accomplishes. Then of course we get My Kind of Hero with producer Terrence Chong. This is great. I love hearing from Terrence. He's very erudite. He has a great grasp of the events, memory of the events, and again, it's really wonderful. I think it's definitely worth checking out. Editing the Killer, which is an interview with editor David Wu, really interesting. He talks a lot about the music editing, about kind of scoring the film. I don't mean scoring the film as in actually composing the music, but as in finding the moments of like, this is where this music has to go, this is where this beat goes, this is where this crescendo has to take place. Really interesting stuff, and certainly very specific to his work on The Killer, but also general overview of that type of work in film, which I love hearing about that sort of thing. And then, of course, we get another episode of Hong Kong Confidential with Grady Hendrix, author of These Fists Break Bricks, which I actually just finished that book not long ago, within the past week, I believe. Worth checking out for sure. Really excellent take, especially on the sort of U.S. invasion of kung fu movies in the 70s and 80s, and some of the stars, etc. Anyway, I digress. Another wonderful bit from Grady is a wonderful storytelling aspect to it all. Very just a very clear, concise narrative of how the film gets made, of why the film gets made, of how everyone comes aboard, of the impact of the film. Definitely worth checking out, and very concise. Very, it's very brief. I think it's like 15 minutes. Then we get some deleted and extended scenes, which are great, worth checking out for sure. Don't necessarily add a ton to this film. It doesn't feel like, whereas like with Better Tomorrow 2, I remarked about how it felt like there was a lot missing. This film doesn't really feel like there's much missing. But that said, there's definitely some nice stuff in these deleted and extended scenes. Then we get some trailers. Always fun to watch, not only for how the film was marketed, but also as a comparison for how it now looks in 4K. So definitely check those out. There's a still gallery as well with some excellent stills from the film. And then, of course, we also get our wonderful booklet here, which I showed off in the unboxing video. I have not had a chance to read through this completely, but there's some excellent writings in here from a number of folks. Grady Hendrix, of course, writing the lead essay. Victor Fan writing an essay in here. Callum Waddell and let's see, Brandon Bentley. So a number of great essays in that booklet, and definitely something that I'll be checking out very soon. All right, let's transition over into talking about the film itself. So it had been a while since I'd seen the movie, probably going on 20 years, and I had very fond memories of it. I think it's the film that visually might have stuck with me the most. The story as well, honestly, the story itself is fairly iconic in some ways when you think about it. It really almost harkens all the way back to something like Charlie Chaplin's City Lights, right? The girl is blind, and he ends up fighting in a boxing match in order to get a surgery for her so that she'll see again. So there's this really, really wonderful, bit of storytelling in so much as we have our hired killer. He goes out on a hit, and accidentally the singer is blinded during the events of the hit, and he feels guilt over this. He ends up striking up kind of a relationship. It's never clearly defined. I definitely saw it to be a romantic relationship. There's a couple of moments in particular that feel very intimate between the two, but there is never any real clarification as to the nature of their relationship. Apparently, there were some scenes that were to be shot, but Sally Ye, who plays the singer, unfortunately, she was contracted for 45 days, and when her time was up, she left, and they didn't actually get to shoot the scenes that would have made the love triangle a little bit more explicit, and I think would have been fine. It's fine without it. I think it comes through. In fact, I like that it's not too overt. I like that it's a little bit more subtle, because it focuses much more on brotherhood, loyalty, chivalry, honor between these characters, which are hallmarks of John Woo's filmmaking. And while I do think that his female characters often get short shrift, while he does get some that have some agency, like Jackie in A Better Tomorrow, or our intrepid detective in Hard Boiled, but ultimately, they tend to focus on these men, which is fine. I mean, that's the type of movies that he's making, so that's not a criticism, but it is just a note to say that even in this film, like she doesn't really have much agency. She certainly has some wonderful scenes, and there are a couple of moments where she does take control, but for the most part, she's there to help kind of move the story along, as opposed to actually kind of like being a force within the story, if you will. So Chow Yun-Fat is brilliant in this film, and I think one of the things that you can't help but notice if you view A Better Tomorrow 1, A Better Tomorrow 2, The Killer, and Hard Boiled, especially if you view them in that order, which we didn't get to do, right? Because Hard Boiled came first, then A Better Tomorrow, and then The Killer. As far as on the 4K Ultra HD, the films were made: A Better Tomorrow 1, Better Tomorrow 2, The Killer, Hard Boiled. If you view the films in that order, you really see the realization of Chow Yun-Fat as a film actor, as a star. I think that, in A Better Tomorrow, we get a fairly raw, visceral portrayal of Mark. And then in Kin, in A Better Tomorrow 2, it's kind of a little bit more of that, although there's a little bit of a difference, which is nice. And then in The Killer, we get a very different performance. And A Better Tomorrow 3, I should not leave that out, the prequel. Like, in some ways, The Killer and A Better Tomorrow 3 feel very tonally, while the films themselves are vastly different, the character, like if you told me that young Mark in A Better Tomorrow 3 grew up to be the killer in The Killer, I would actually, Zhang, that is, in The Killer, I would believe that. There's something about his portrayal here that just feels a little bit more cool, sad, lonely, conflicted, like the type of character that the Mark in A Better Tomorrow 3 might grow up to be, in a way. Take that for the fanon that it might be. But anyway, I really love his performance in this film. It's very understated. There are a couple of explosive moments, but for the most part, he underplays a lot of it. And I think that when those explosive moments happen, and certainly when the climactic gunfight occurs and the fallout from that gunfight happens, it's just it hits even harder. And so it's just a great performance from Chow Yun-Fat, and certainly there's a reason why it's so iconic. He becomes like the Cary Grant of heroic bloodshed films in this movie. It's like you take one part Chow Yun-Fat, one part Cary Grant, one part Alain Delon, and there you go. That's the character in this film, in a lot of ways, which is fascinating. Danny Lee, who plays our police officer, who's hot on Chow Yun-Fat's trail, also has some incredible stuff and just does wonderful work throughout the film. And it's a reminder that as much as we talk about, Western audiences in particular, talk about Chow Yun-Fat, talk about how cool he is, talk about, him in all of these movies. If you mention to people who kind of know, if you mention A Better Tomorrow or The Killer or Hard Boiled, they think of Chow Yun-Fat. They think of John Woo as a director, but they think of Chow Yun-Fat as the actor, right? But the truth is that he's always surrounded by such capable and wonderful actors, and Danny Lee is no exception. It's a really, really great performance, and I think the nature of their relationship, it's fascinating because it honestly, it is different from the relationship in A Better Tomorrow. It's different from the relationship in Hard Boiled, and yet there are these striking similarities. And I think that it's fascinating to see the way that Chow Yun Fat plays off of someone like Danny Lee compared to maybe Tony Leung or T Leung or or Leslie Chung. So it's really interesting to see that interplay. The supporting cast is very strong too. Both of our kind of heroes get mentor figures, and Chow Yun Fat's mentor figure. It's kind of fascinating because the actor that plays that character was actually a friend of Chow Yun Fat's, and apparently had been on Chu Kong is his name, had been on a bit of a downslope, and Chow Yun Fat was like, "Hey, this is who we should hire." And I think that their relationship, their personal relationship, kind of helped to fuel the nature of the relationship in the film. And yeah, again, it's a great performance. It really is. Kenneth Sang plays Sang Ya, who is the Detective Lee's partner, and also just does an admirable job. Has some wonderful comedic moments in the film as well. For a film that is fairly light on comedy, quite frankly, he has some really nice moments, and I really appreciated his performance. Of course, he gets a heroic demise, and it's quite, I don't know, it's quite impactful, especially because I think of the way that it hits Danny Lee, Detective Lee. They have I think these dual relationships, the way that they play out, they work well as kind of foils of one another. And I think that whereas the detectives, their relationship maintains this kind of steadfastness, and there's really no bumps in the road. It's not that the detectives don't have any sort of conflict necessarily, but compared to what comes between Feng Se and Ajong, it is definitely a little bit different. Ajong and Feng Se have a moment where Chow Yun Fat's character is holding him at gunpoint, promising that he'll kill him if he betrays him again because he feels betrayed by him. And then the way that Chu Kong's character Feng Se kind of stands up, and there's this fascinating dynamic that his character has with the gangsters as to whether or not he's this old dog that should be put out to pasture and isn't worth their time or their respect, and he struggles with his own sense of self-respect. And I think that part of his journey throughout the film is getting that back, and he pays the ultimate price by the end of the film. But he kind of is an exemplar of heroic bloodshed because of the nature of his character and kind of the chivalry of the character. And I urge you to listen to the David West commentary, because David West talks a great deal about the nature of the brotherhood and the sense of honor and loyalty between these characters, and uses some great reference points to Japanese cinema, French cinema, U.S. cinema, going back to hard-boiled detective and crime films like with James Cagney and Humphrey Bogart, into kind of the French films of Jean-Pierre Melville, and then of course Chambara films and Yakuza films from Japan, and how all of this kind of influenced John Woo and these notions of the relationships between these characters. And it's really fascinating stuff, and I think it's worth listening to because I don't want to just regurgitate it. But it's really, really, really great. visually the film is a feast, and I think that one of the things that John Woo kind of achieves in this movie that's so brilliant, and it's very true of Hard Boiled as well, is that once the story starts to kind of really crystallize, it just takes off into a whole other level. But early on, you're getting these scenes, these bits, these vignettes almost, that are constructing a narrative without necessarily just giving it to you, without spoon feeding it to you, which I so appreciate. You're getting to understand who these people are, what they do, what they want, what they don't want, and then all of a sudden the narrative starts to propel itself forward into like, this is the plot, this is how we're going to get from point A to B to C to D. And I just thought that the storytelling overall is incredibly strong in The Killer. And by the time the movie is over, you just walk away from it with such a strong appreciation for everything that has come before, even if, and I admit that I felt this way in the earlier, kind of some of the earlier moments of the film, I was struggling to be completely invested. But by the end, I was. And that might not be everyone's experience. Some people might start watching this movie and be invested right away. But because of the nature of the way that he tells the story, and, kind of these vignettes almost, and these, getting these little bits of story before the narrative really starts to propel itself into this, race to the end. I could understand how you might feel almost a little detached, but the amazing thing is it builds your investment, and then by the time the film is over, you're kind of blown away. This is certainly the film that I think solidifies his visual style and all the hallmarks of John Woo films. This is the film that, in some ways, feels the most John Woo of all of these movies. It seems to be the film that certainly U.S. Producers, directors, filmmakers fell in love with the most, because so many of the elements of this movie get used in John Woo's American films, and a lot of his elements in this movie are the ones that are the most aped by U.S. directors. Certainly, his entire overall, his entire canon is certainly a source of influence for a lot of '90s action film directors and early 2000s film directors in the United States. And certainly, a lot of elements from this film are elements that he will use in the United States, whether it's Hard Target, Face Off, Mission Impossible 2, even Wind Talkers. I mean, all of this will kind of inform his filmmaking throughout the next decade in the United States. And this is indeed the film that really put him on the map internationally. This is the one that garnered the most attention. Hard Boiled obviously did as well, but by the time he made Hard Boiled, he was already on his way, to the United States. I think that was kind of a known thing. That's like, this is kind of the last thing I'm going to do here, and then I'm going to the U.S. Whereas The Killer at that point, this is just another movie that he's making in Hong Kong, and what happens next, we'll see. Ultimately, it's a film filled with incredible performances, fantastic, stunt work and car chases, amazing gun battles, a powerhouse performance by Chow Yun-Fat, of course, and a performance nearly equaled, if not equaled, by Danny Lee. Sally Ye as Jenny does an incredible job as well. Guinness Sang as Sergeant Sang, yeah, wonderful. But in some ways, the unsung hero of the piece for me, and the one that I walk away from feeling like without this character, the movie would just kind of, it would feel hollow almost. And that is, of course, Chu Kong's Feng Se character. I just think he does a wonderful job. I think his scenes with Chow Yun-Fat, nearly steal the show for me in a lot of ways. I really enjoy the relationship between their characters. I enjoy the scenes between the two actors. I enjoy the fact that it speaks to a past that both of these characters had, these unseen adventures, these unseen, criminal enterprises, whatever. And I really like that. It just makes the story feel more, it plays into that iceberg theory, right? It's like, we only see the tip of the iceberg, but underneath all of that, there's so much more going on. And if a writer or director, if the actors have done their work properly, all that stuff underneath the surface is going to be there. It's going to be alive, and an audience will, pick up on that. And I think an audience will be able to have a deeper appreciation of whatever piece of art they're seeing, if that is the case. And I think it's certainly the case with their relationship in The Killer. The climactic gunfight is absolutely iconic, wonderful piece of filmmaking, so completely over the top. It's funny, there are some reviews from 1989, 1990 that actually praised the film, gave it 4 out of 4 stars or whatnot, but actually called it at turns, engaging and visceral and laughable. And I understand where that laughable comment comes from. I don't necessarily find it laughable, but I certainly understand where it comes from. Overall, it's just such a classic piece of cinema. It's one of the greatest crime action films of all time. It's certainly one of John Woo's best films. I think Hard Boiled might actually edge this one out a little bit for me. But I'm so thrilled to own this, feature packed 4K Ultra HD version of the film. It is definitely one I will revisit. 10 years from now, when the time is right, if the kids are interested, I will certainly, this is one that I will absolutely want to screen for them. I'm just thrilled that it's available in this format in this way. And I look forward to seeing, if Arrow can even remotely top this, which is going to be a pretty hefty task, because Shout Factory has done an incredible job with The Killer here in 4K Ultra HD. And again, I think that if this is anywhere in your wheelhouse, anywhere that you are remotely interested in, you absolutely have to pick this up. Run, don't walk. It's a fantastic, fantastic film. And hey, if you have a film lover in your life that's looking for something, a holiday gift, this is absolutely a perfect gift. Grab this and Hard Boiled both. So yeah, it gets one of my highest recommendations. I think it's fantastic. And again, I'm really pleased with the work that they've put into it, and with the special features that we have, and just the film itself, which ultimately is the most important thing. So that's all I have for you today. There's certainly more to come soon. I actually have a quick kick, believe it or not, coming on a holiday film, a British holiday film from the 50s. I'll leave you with that tidbit. It's going to be a short, sub 10-minute little review, but it's something that I honestly thought about a year ago, and then I rewatched the film recently, and I was like, I'm doing this. So stay tuned for that. I also, by the time you see this, the quick kick for The Assassin might already be up, which I'm really excited about, starting all those Shaw Brothers films and the quick kick stuff. I also have my retro unboxing of Star Trek The Motion Picture coming for my friend Albie and his quest to send Serenity, his daughter, to space camp. And then there's some special stuff coming up in conjunction with the Fandom Entanglement podcast. My buddy Damon is doing a special thing for Sliders, and JJ Lindell joined me for that. And we had a great time on that one as well. JJ will be joining me again very soon. We've got something special cooked up, a couple something specials cooked up. So I've got stuff in the can, and there's a lot of stuff coming throughout the holiday season. I'm probably going to ramp things up to like 2 episodes a week, maybe even more. We'll see. But I'm really excited to be doing this. I'm having so much fun. I hope you are too. Please leave a comment below, hit that like and subscribe button, put the notification bell on, and join me on this journey, because again, I'm having fun. I hope you are too. In the meantime, take care of yourselves, take care of one another, stay safe out there. Happy holidays, and always, always leap responsibly.